Dr. Doreen 𝗟𝗢𝗓 is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism. Doreen 𝗟𝗢𝗓.
Dr. 𝗟𝗢𝗓.
Dr. Doreen 𝗟𝗢𝗓.
Dr. Doreen 𝗟𝗢𝗓 is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Our first question is, I'm a 53-year-old man. I've been through 3 divorces and lost countless jobs, all because people tell me I am not, quote, understanding them. My last wife said that she thought I was on the spectrum. When I was in school, my parents were told that I might have Asperger's syndrome. Should I go get a diagnosis, and how would that potentially help me?
Right. I mean, I think the second part of the question is more important, I think. How does that help me? How does the diagnosis help me? So let me just back up for a minute and just kind of like throw all my thoughts out at this, because
Let's do it.
There's a lot to be said when it comes to adult diagnosis. So I have so many different thoughts on this. So first of all, I want to say that it is quite a different thing, simply because it is, by definition, if you're getting diagnosed in adulthood, that means that you have a milder version or a milder form of autism that has gone, I don't want to say unnoticed, but you've been able to function in society up to adulthood. And it has now finally come to a point where you're realizing that you're functioning, but you're not thriving, let's say. And there are things that you could perhaps improve on or change or learn about that would help you do better in society, okay? So
Enjoy your life more.
enjoy your life more and thrive.
Achieve your goals.
Achieve, grow, exactly. Learn, achieve, grow, socialize, find friends, be happy, etc.
I'm being sticky about it because a lot of times people think that when we say improve, that it means assimilate, be more like everybody else. And you're not saying that.
No, not.
You're saying achieve
that's
your
why I
own
like the
goals.
word thrive.
Yep.
I like the word thrive. And so the thing is that, usually if I'm diagnosing an adult, it will always be a 1-1 severity.
Okay.
And that means that you have, at most it's going to be a 1-1 severity.
If they qualify for the diagnosis.
If they qualify for the diagnosis, right?
Okay.
And I do want to touch on, but not too much, I do want to touch on the fact that there's a lot of mistakes being made, and I've seen a lot of adults, much more so than I would see children. In children, it's so much more prevalent that when you go to get a diagnosis, there's a lot going on. With adults, a lot of adults are mistakenly thinking that social anxiety combined with ADHD, for instance, is autism, and it's not. I've had a lot of adults come to me who argued with me almost that they have the diagnosis or that they have autism. And I think it's because they're trying to find a reason for the difficulties they're experiencing. And there's obviously a reason, but it isn't autism, right? It could be social anxiety, which is also pretty debilitating. It could be ADHD, which will affect your life in multiple ways. It could be other things, but it isn't autistic disorder, right? Now, that said, when you're an adult and you get diagnosed, it'll do a couple of things. One is it'll help you say, oh, that's why. It's kind of like, it's sort of like the person who, just is lethargic, can't get out of bed, is like tired all the time, and they go and get a blood test and find out they're hypothyroid. And they're like, oh my God, or they're anemic, that's why I'm tired all the time.
Right.
So it helps you understand that you're part of a group of people who struggle with the same things. That can be, I think, in a lot of ways maybe cathartic, or it can help you feel like you're not alone, and you're part of a group, and that's in itself helpful. The second thing is, obviously you will then become qualified for health insurance coverage, right? Because now you have a diagnosis, and for disability and various other benefits. And so that is another good thing about it. The bad thing is that we don't have we don't have good services or enough services or treatment protocols for adults who are on the spectrum, especially not mild adults. So there are a few, first of all, there's a big shortage of services for adults to begin with. It's like a lot of the focus and concentration of services, as you know, Shannon, is on younger children. And that's just because the field is newer, there's not enough providers, there's not enough resources, and everybody focuses on trying to help the younger children cope and survive and thrive and so on. But there are fewer adult services, and all of those adult services that exist are mostly for severely affected adults. So they're for adults who are non-communicative or are self-injurious or are so frustrated with life that they cannot function in one way or another and need around-the-clock care.
Not the ones that you
Not
were just
the
talking about.
ones. Those are mostly the three adults, right? So they're severely affected by the symptoms of autism. When you look at the ones, these are folks who are, for instance, you know, they get anxious and they don't know how to plan things well. So they definitely don't understand other people's perspective, and a lot of what they go through is just, like this gentleman said, like, they might say things that they really think or believe, but they won't explain it, and they certainly won't see things from your perspective. So, you know, in general, we as human beings learn very early on to, for instance, not say things that might be offensive, even if they're true. You just won't say them, you know. And when we're children, we do, and as we grow up, we learn, oh, we don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. And that is something that it's a natural ability to see someone else's perspective. And we actually start to feel uncomfortable about doing things like that. But you know, adults on the spectrum won't be able to do that very well. And so oftentimes people will feel odd around them or awkward around them because they're not interacting socially the same way. And so they end up being very isolated, or as this gentleman wrote, you know, you lose relationships that are very important relationships, and it's unintentional. And so what ends up happening a lot of times with adults on the spectrum is that they develop depression because they cannot figure out what they're doing wrong. So it's a very difficult scenario. And I think to answer the question, it's one thing to get the diagnosis and you have the benefits of like knowing you're part of a group and so on. But really, I think we as clinicians need to start providing more services for those adults. And that's, I think, super, super important, is to be able to provide services for very, very high functioning adults, and to be able to really just focus on, honestly, it's really just about focusing on that one thing, which is theory of mind, being able to understand other people's perspectives. It's a very important part of what they need.
Absolutely. I want to address some of the comments. First of all, Jose says it's clear in the West now, so we're glad about that. Hope that the rest of it gets there. Carolina says, we appreciate all the efforts, stories, and experience you share to help us support and guide our young adults with ASD.
Thank you.
Parker says, we had smoke issues here in West Virginia for a few days, but it's okay now. I have a friend in Allentown who said it's literally in campfire-like conditions.
Amazing.
Philippe says, got diagnosed at 25, excited to watch this and learn. Philippe, we're so glad that you're here with us. Please write in with whatever your thoughts are. Autism Journey with Elijah, we're saying good morning to you. Parker says, I still have not forgiven 𝗟𝗧 for the music fiasco. I wonder if it's a PR stunt. I know women are grossly underdiagnosed, so I wonder if that's a factor. And he adds, and self-diagnosis is not valid. Here's the conundrum, though. Here's 𝗟𝗧, and one of the things that we clearly saw in her responses to people when she was responding to them was she was not doing perspective taking at all. Like it was, and I was like, where's her PR person? Somebody needs to be on her because she's not thinking about what it's like for the other person. And now she's saying, well, I've been diagnosed by a professional. But there's a period of time in which people are like, I need some help, I need some support. And while we've always said that actually getting the diagnosis other than insurance isn't that helpful, but I think we're all there have been a lot of people who have self-diagnosed. And we don't like that either. And I've said to people who are adults who are saying, I don't know whether to get the diagnosis or not, but they're public people, I've said, don't come out and say that you're on the spectrum unless you have an official diagnosis, because the community does not respond well. They're not welcoming.
Yeah.
Even, I had said the other day, Parker, about 𝗟𝗧, I think we all feel a little raw after the music fiasco, but it's important to welcome her into our community. And, she's not going to get it right from the beginning, right?
That's a very good point.
And we all have, if we're, as a parent, if I'm saying I want us all to be more welcoming of people on the spectrum, then sometimes
let's be welcoming.
Sometimes we have to be understanding when they don't do the perspective taking thing as well as we would like them. That is actually a part of the diagnosis. So often you talk about, well, tantruming isn't.
Right.
But not being able to take another person's perspective actually is a part of the diagnosis.
And you just said it very well, Shannon. It's like, we talk about being welcoming. We need to be welcoming.
Yeah.
So, and there's so many celebrities who have said, I don't know if Anthony Hopkins has an official diagnosis. I don't know if, Jerry Seinfeld has. I mean, a lot of people come out and say, I think I have autism or Asperger's, and I don't know if they have an official diagnosis or not. But we just have to be a kind of understanding. And I understand that it's like for the people who actually do have a diagnosis, there's all kinds of feelings. It's the same as parents who have children who are severely affected. They feel that what they're going through is quite different than what the individual who's which is true.
It is true.
And they want different things for their kids. But I think we all just kind of need to be trusting and respectful of others who might feel that there's something wrong, and this is the closest they've gotten to understanding what's going on with themselves.
Don't forget, you can watch Ask Dr. Doreen live every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time. We hope to see you there.